The awakening of divine recognition begins in silence, often unnoticed by those who once stood tall in pride. It is a moment that doesn't announce itself with thunder or noise, but through a deep stirring in the spirit of those who once doubted the chosen ones. The same people who used to laugh, betray, or dismiss now find themselves haunted by a realization they can't explain. They see your glow changing, your energy shifting, and suddenly they remember every word they spoke against you. The divine veil that once shielded your true identity is slowly lifting, and for the first time, they're seeing you through spiritual eyes instead of worldly ones. What they see terrifies them not because of fear in the usual sense, but because they sense the divine authority that has always surrounded you. There's a holy weight in your presence, something they cannot understand, yet it pulls them in and convicts their hearts. They now feel what they couldn't before, that you were never just an ordinary person struggling through life, you were always an extension of God's will in human form. This awakening is not just about them realizing who you are, it's about the divine unveiling of truth after long seasons of spiritual blindness. God hides his strongest warriors in plain sight, allowing them to walk through storms, ridicule, and loneliness so their light may sharpen through fire. The awakening comes when those who once rejected that light finally see what they were rejecting, the divine essence sent to help, guide, or awaken them. They begin to feel remorse not only for what they did to you but for how they resisted the divine plan. They can no longer hide behind pride or ignorance. Every memory, every encounter with you now replays in their mind with new meaning. They see the patience you carried, the peace you tried to maintain, the forgiveness you offered despite betrayal, and it pierces them deeply. The energy of divine recognition is heavy, it shakes their spirit awake. It is at this stage that the chosen ones start to sense a shift in the atmosphere around them. The people who once stood against them now move with hesitation, almost fear. They begin to send small signals, indirect apologies, or gestures of peace, but it's not because they suddenly became good-hearted. It's because their spirit now understands what their mind refused to see. They sense divine authority in your silence. They feel judgment in your distance. They know something greater surrounds you, and that knowledge humbles them. For years, they may have spoken against you, envied your resilience, or celebrated your downfalls. Now they see that every challenge only refined your light and brought you closer to divine power. They realize you didn't fall, you were being built. The awakening also affects you, the chosen one. It's not just them realizing who you are, it's you stepping fully into your divine awareness. You begin to understand why things happened the way they did, why God allowed you to walk through betrayal, loneliness, and rejection. You see now that every wound was part of the unveiling, each scar became evidence of your strength and proof of your authenticity. The awakening within you aligns perfectly with the awakening in them, creating a divine moment of recognition where truth cannot be denied. It is a time when masks fall, intentions are exposed, and spiritual roles are revealed. They were never meant to destroy you, they were meant to reveal you. When the divine recognition spreads, it carries a frequency that cannot be hidden. People who once ignored you suddenly notice you. Your name, your words, and even your silence begin to echo in places you thought had forgotten you. The spiritual realm amplifies your presence because heaven itself now bears witness to your rise. You become a mirror through which people see their own shadows. Those who once competed or mocked now avoid eye contact, not out of arrogance but shame. They feel the weight of divine order pressing upon them, reminding them of their actions. The more they try to run, the more their conscience follows. That is the power of recognition, it brings conviction. In this season, you begin to see people's true hearts exposed. Some will seek forgiveness sincerely, while others will only seek relief from the guilt of what they've done. You will recognize the difference. The divine within you will guide you on who deserves your grace and who must face the consequences of their choices. But regardless of their motives, one thing becomes clear: they can no longer deny your light. The truth of who you are shines so brightly that even their pride cannot dim it. The spiritual hierarchy has been restored. You stand as one of God's strongest angels in human form, not by boasting but by the undeniable energy of divine authority flowing through you. This awakening is also part of a larger divine plan. It's the moment when the chosen are recognized not by status, wealth, or power, but by spirit. Heaven marks this moment with divine confirmation signs, dreams, synchronicities, and inner peace flood your soul as the truth unfolds. You begin to see that God never forgot you, that every tear you cried was counted, and every injustice was recorded. Now, those who hurt you are awakening to that same truth, facing the spiritual consequences of touching God's anointed. The recognition shakes them to their core. It's not vengeance, it's revelation. They finally understand the depth of your connection with the divine, and that realization alone becomes their greatest lesson. As this awakening spreads, the spiritual world adjusts. New alignments form, new doors open, and divine justice begins to manifest in visible ways. People who underestimated you will now watch in awe as favor surrounds you like armor. The tables are turning, but not through anger or revenge, through divine recognition. The truth is finally being seen, and the chosen ones are standing in their light, fully aware of the divine power that has always been within them. The rise of divine justice begins when heaven decides the time for silence has ended. For too long, the chosen ones walked through pain, betrayal, and misunderstanding, carrying burdens they never deserved. They were mocked for their faith, doubted for their calling, and attacked for their light. Yet through it all, they remained anchored in divine purpose, even when the world tried to convince them they were lost. The rise of divine justice is not just about punishment or revenge, it is about divine order being restored. It is the moment when the universe itself recognizes the imbalance that has long existed and begins to shift everything back into alignment. Those who wronged you begin to face the reflection of their own actions, not through human intervention, but through the hand of God moving quietly yet powerfully behind the scenes. The rise of divine justice is often slow at first. It starts with discomfort. Those who spoke against you begin to feel the weight of their words. The ones who plotted your downfall begin to stumble without reason. They can't explain why doors are closing, why relationships are failing, or why peace has left them. What they don't understand is that the spiritual realm has issued correction. Every lie told against you, every false intention hidden behind a smile, every silent betrayal is now being addressed by the same divine energy they thought didn't see them. God never sleeps, and he never forgets. When his angels on earth are attacked, the consequences ripple far beyond human comprehension. You, the chosen one, start to notice the change as well. The people who once seemed untouchable are now fragile. The voices that once carried power over you have lost their influence. The storms that used to shake you now pass by without impact. You begin to feel lighter, stronger, and more aligned. This isn't coincidence, it's divine justice unfolding. God is elevating you, not because you sought revenge, but because you stayed faithful when you had every reason to give up. Your endurance became your evidence, and heaven took note. Every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night was stored in divine record, waiting for this moment of restoration. The energy around you begins to shift. What was once resistance now becomes release, what was blocked now flows freely. Those who once tried to silence your truth now find their own voices trembling. They realize too late that they were never fighting a person, they were resisting divine purpose. You were God's vessel all along, and to stand against you was to stand against the will of heaven itself. Now, divine justice manifests not through wrath, but through revelation. The truth begins to surface. Secrets come to light. Falsehoods unravel. People start to see the purity of your intentions and the darkness of those who tried to harm you. Divine justice exposes everything not to shame, but to cleanse. The same platforms that were used to mock you become stages for your rise. The same people who gossiped about your downfall become witnesses to your comeback. This rise is not loud, yet it shakes everything around it. It operates in divine timing, ensuring every wrong turn, every lost opportunity, and every heartbreak serves a purpose in your elevation. The hand of God begins to move visibly. Opportunities that were withheld are now released in abundance. The same energy that once oppressed you now fuels your growth. Your life becomes proof that no weapon formed against you could prosper. Those who doubted your strength now speak your name with awe, realizing that divine protection had surrounded you all along. Justice doesn't always come as punishment, sometimes it comes as transformation. God doesn't just remove your enemies, He redefines your purpose through them. The rise of divine justice also humbles those who once played with spiritual fire. They start to experience the echoes of their own intentions. Some will try to apologize, not because they truly understand, but because they can feel the divine energy shifting against them. They sense that something greater is at play, something they cannot control. Their dreams become restless, their peace disappears, their paths seem uncertain. It's not cruelty, it's correction. God's justice is always righteous, designed not to destroy, but to awaken. Every person who crossed you is now standing face to face with the lesson they were meant to learn through you. You were not sent to curse them, you were sent to show them the cost of touching divine energy with unclean hands. For the chosen ones, this season feels like vindication but also reflection. As divine justice rises, you realize that it's not just about your enemies facing consequences, it's about you stepping into full awareness of your divine authority. You see now that you were never powerless, only patient. God was preparing your table in the presence of those who tried to break you. He was allowing every moment of pain to become fuel for your purpose. The justice you experience is not only external, it happens within you. You begin to heal deeply, to release resentment, and to embrace divine peace. You understand that justice isn't just about balancing wrongs, it's about restoring harmony between heaven and earth. As divine justice rises, signs begin to follow. Things that once made no sense start to fall into place. You meet people who speak life into your purpose, doors open where there were once walls, and spiritual clarity replaces confusion. The divine realm makes sure that those who remained pure in heart are elevated while those who thrived on manipulation face exposure. You will notice that no energy goes unaccounted for. Every word, every deed, every intention returns to its sender. The laws of divine reciprocity are now in full motion. The chosen ones stand tall, not because of vengeance, but because of restoration. The rise of divine justice is the final proof that God's timing is perfect. The scales are being balanced, and everything hidden is being revealed. You may not need to say a word, your life becomes the testimony. The world begins to see that divine favor is not random, it's earned through endurance, faith, and obedience. The same people who tried to destroy you are now learning from your strength. The same voices that tried to silence you now echo your truth. Divine justice doesn't just correct, it exalts. It takes what was broken and transforms it into beauty. It takes what was meant for harm and turns it into power. It reminds the world that when heaven declares someone chosen, no force on earth or in spirit can stand against that decree. The return of balance is a sacred process that unfolds when the chaos that once surrounded the chosen ones begins to settle under divine order. It is not sudden, but it is steady, guided by the unseen hand of God, realigning everything that was thrown out of place. For so long, the chosen ones walked through confusion, betrayal, and isolation while others seemed to thrive in deceit and manipulation. The imbalance between light and darkness seemed overwhelming, but that imbalance was never permanent, it was preparation. The universe, though it seemed silent, was recalibrating everything according to divine timing. The return of balance comes as a quiet but powerful correction, where every action meets its reflection, and every intention returns to its source. Those who spread lies now face truth, those who planted pain now reap awareness, and those who stood firm in faith now rise into divine recognition. The chosen ones begin to see the shift first within themselves. Balance doesn't start in the outer world, it begins in the spirit. The same heart that once carried bitterness starts to heal, the mind that once replayed pain now begins to find peace. They realize that forgiveness is not weakness, it is the weapon that restores equilibrium. As they release the heavy energies of resentment, their spirit grows lighter, and they begin to walk in divine flow once again. This internal transformation mirrors the changes happening in the spiritual realm. As they surrender the weight of what was done to them, heaven begins to balance the scales externally. People who once had power over them lose control, opportunities once withheld begin to open, and the truth that was buried rises like light breaking through dark clouds. The return of balance also brings exposure. Those who operated in darkness, hiding behind charm or false intentions, can no longer disguise themselves. Their energy reveals them before they speak. The vibration of truth is rising, and anything that cannot match it begins to fall away. This is not punishment, it is purification. The chosen ones are no longer tied to cycles of pain, manipulation, or guilt. They are being released from karmic entanglements that once drained their spirit. Each experience that once felt like a curse now reveals itself as a divine lesson, showing them how to recognize authenticity, protect their energy, and walk with discernment. Balance means that the lessons learned through suffering now become wisdom that guards their destiny. In this stage, people who once dismissed or disrespected you begin to experience their own awakening. They start to see the imbalance they created in your life reflected in theirs. Suddenly, they're placed in situations where they must feel what you once felt: isolation, misunderstanding, or loss. It's not revenge, it's divine justice restoring order. God doesn't operate through cruelty, but through correction, and the correction always comes in the form of understanding. When those who wronged the chosen ones finally understand the pain they caused, they begin to seek peace. They want to apologize, not just to relieve guilt, but to restore spiritual harmony within themselves. They sense the energy shift and know that their healing cannot begin until they acknowledge the wrong. This is the divine cycle of restoration. The offender seeks forgiveness, and the wounded finds release. The return of balance also marks the end of spiritual suppression. The chosen ones are no longer hidden, no longer silent, no longer walking with dimmed light to make others comfortable. The divine within them is now fully awakened. Their presence begins to bring order wherever they go. Their words carry authority, their silence carries weight, and their very existence commands respect. The energy they once suppressed to avoid conflict now radiates naturally, aligning with God's will. Those who once overlooked them begin to seek their wisdom, drawn not by curiosity but by need. The chosen ones become living vessels of divine order, embodying balance between power and grace, strength and humility. This balance extends into every area of life. Relationships begin to shift, false connections fade away while divine partnerships emerge. Finances start to stabilize, creative ideas flow, and divine opportunities align perfectly. It feels as if the universe is now conspiring in your favor, but the truth is, it always was. The difference is that now, you are aligned with it. When balance is restored, you no longer chase what's meant for you, it flows toward you naturally. The chosen ones understand that everything taken from them is being returned tenfold, not just in material form but in peace, clarity, and divine purpose. What once seemed like loss was simply a divine exchange, old energy making room for something higher. The return of balance brings recognition, not for validation, but as evidence of divine justice fulfilled. People begin to speak of your resilience, your strength, your light. The same people who once ignored your presence now acknowledge your purpose. You don't have to prove yourself anymore because your life becomes the proof. God elevates you in ways no human effort could achieve. The balance between spiritual and physical blessings becomes visible. You are honored not for what you endured, but for how you endured it. Heaven celebrates the completion of a cycle. The chosen ones, once broken and misunderstood, are now standing in full power, healed, restored, and unshakable. But this return of balance is not only about reward, it's about responsibility. With divine elevation comes divine duty. You are called not to boast, but to guide others still trapped in imbalance. You are meant to teach through your story, to inspire others to walk in alignment with divine truth. The light within you now serves as a beacon, reminding others that balance is not achieved through revenge or control but through surrender and faith. The chosen ones are instruments of order in a chaotic world, carrying peace into spaces that once rejected them. As divine balance returns, the world begins to feel different. The air feels lighter, signs align effortlessly, and the energy around you hums with harmony. You realize that you no longer need to chase validation or fight battles alone. Heaven has already gone before you, aligning everything according to divine justice. The people who once hurt you now watch in awe as your spirit radiates unbreakable peace. You are no longer a victim of imbalance, you are the embodiment of divine order on earth. The return of balance is the divine conclusion of every storm you endured. It is the moment heaven declares that the chosen ones have completed their season of pain and entered their era of peace. Now, everything meant to harm you will serve your growth, and every shadow will bow before your light. The world will know that balance has returned, and the chosen ones have risen stronger, wiser, and unshakably aligned with God's divine will.